what can creatives, technologists, designers, animators learn from psychedelics to actually create tools for people and creations that will actually help them connect to nature.
But could technology, could AR be leveraged to make a more egalitarian, accessible route to that, to a similar vantage point there? VR, AR be leveraged to bring about experiences of unity and interconnection that seem core to psychedelics without even needing to use psychedelics.
It's hard to differentiate between correlation and causation.
There's an over there's a sort of overleaning bias for correlative research, and there's not been really, I think, enough kind of work exploring the kind of possible causal underpinnings of what's going on here. You have to really go out of your way to not connect with nature there by the findings that sort of came up there, even with psilocybin being administered in a kind of nature deprived or lacking setting that didn't seem to actually get in the way of the shifts that people reported. Experiences of unity and interconnection with nature were by far the most primary central sort of mechanism at play, which is perhaps not that surprising. But as I touched on, these experiences of transmogrification, shape-shifting into other species.
Doing psychedelics outdoors helps bring out these themes. So I'm very curious what exactly was the setting of your experiment. I think psychedelics brought back some of that child belief again and ideas and connected to nature that I had back then into my current life.
I had one psychedelic experience and I changed my entire career and I moved into doing something I considered more environmentally proactive. Yeah, your early childhood experiences with nature are very much formative for your lifespan relationship with nature in later years. Maybe psychedelics can help later in life if you've in some way missed those early opportunities. Biophobia, the fear, like feelings of fear and disgust generated by nature, is a markedly growing barrier now to nature connectedness. And it was interesting. I got interviewed by a journalist from Forbes, and he misinterpreted which does happen sometimes with journalists. He misinterpreted what I was saying in the interview, and he said, psychedelics researcher says psychedelics can cure biophobia. If you take a large dose of a psychedelic, it turbs the brain's ability to predict what's going on in the world around it. And you can look at things seemingly through fresh eyes.
If you're going to these ceremonies, make sure you really trust the facilitator, that you trust the group, because without that trust, you're just going to be blocking yourself.
Being able to surrender to the psychedelic experience is one of the important sort of predictors. A nature-based setting, for example, might be fantastic for one person, but someone who's, for instance, got PTSD, as you say, like their setting might need to be more controlled and more secure to ensure that they feel safe and everything is contained.
Your movements can connect to sound, audio, particle systems, or your kinetic energy can become a bunch of stars that are dancing around you. So this is why I fell in love with VR, because you are released from the bottom up sensory input of your evolutionary mechanism and can start actually playing with these things. And we are swamped with dopamine addiction, TikToks and YouTube shorts and likes, which from our brain's perspective, we keep thinking there might be important information there. So it's hacking our brain system like a roulette machine. And I think that's the first sort of understanding that comes from a lot of also psychedelic experiences is we are nature. We're not above nature. We are the same biological mechanisms that power the plant, the ants, the germs. This is us. Like space is so empty and lifeless, actually. And there's this like small, tiny planet that maybe some of these billionaires are trying to escape to Mars. Good luck with that. Personally, I would much rather live in a place that has water, trees, bacteria, mushrooms.
Shifting baseline syndrome is referring to the kind of generational amnesia or forgetting that occurs over the course of a single human lifespan. We tend to judge the quality of the environment or the richness of nature that we encountered or were familiar with when we were children. Human expectations, because of this generational forgetting, the expectations about what constitutes a flourishing environment are being lowered all the time. And that then can imbue even scientists and policymakers can be affected and influenced by this.
Our brains are notoriously bad also at thinking at time scales that matter when it comes to climate, just like you mentioned, not just the past, but also the future. Behavior
No.
change is really a social construct, a lot of it.
Yeah.
You need to feel agency. You need to feel that you're part of a community.
This is the better future, and this is the future if we carry on business as usual.
Maybe one other thing when it comes to technology that I think we can utilize is gamification, right? We talked a little bit about the whole dopamine thing in your brain, and I think gamification can be a big part of it also for positive change or getting people to do things. People will do more when there's a scoreboard and they're competing against someone else, or when they're collaborating and doing things together to get to a joint goal. I try to get my heart rate to be pink when I want to build my little green garden here, but oh, it's so much work. But if we use technology, storytelling, also communication technology to actually empower people with the latest scientific knowledge around psychedelics to help them figure out how they can use it best for themselves, that's the future I'm hoping to see, the synchronization, because there are a few experts out there with amazing knowledge, and technology has that ability to scale that knowledge into more mainstream.